This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So we are now in record mode. And I want to welcome everybody to the annual business meeting for the International Community of Interest. In advertising, since this recording will be posted later on, we are here on the 17th of May at 12 noon Eastern time, 1700 British summertime, and we've got a whopping 4 people on our call today. So Jill Murphy from National and 2 of the other executive committee members from the International Community of Interest, Blair Shantz and Lori Ruch. Lori and Blair, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fabulous. I'm absolutely fabulous. And just glad that we've made it now to our second virtual see. Wish we were all in person because we would have had probably an actual room with some people in it. But we'll go ahead and we'll do this anyway. And what I want to do is, although as we're recording this, there's only a couple of us on the line, we did want to get this for posterity and kind of run through the changes that are going to be coming towards us for the International Community of Interest in the 21-22 operating year. So without further ado, we'll jump into the slides and we'll probably have a little bit of a discussion back and forth with those of us that are on the call here at the end. All right, so first off, we're going to kick off by kind of looking at kind of a 2020-21 operating year in review, and that was really, we were really focused on delivering value to the membership, and I kind of like to look at this as our unique selling proposition is really facilitating virtual lectures and panel sessions, trying to focus on, in the last year, program and project delivery information, and what I think now we've done is actually provided some training, and then trying to solve COCOM engineer challenges, and doing that again through the delivery of subject matter expert presentations that are focused on a particular COCOM engineer challenge. And we can have a debate around whether or not we tick the boxes on both of those. I think we definitely did on number 1. Number 2, we probably can do a little bit more work towards that in the coming year. Over the last year, we facilitated 10 different lectures. We had everything from master classes on project delivery, cost engineering, value methodology, and what I thought was probably one of the better ones this last year on the DD 1354 real property process, which is pretty obscure for most people. I think that's definitely outside the federal project delivery, but something that's important to those of us that are involved in that. We also had some great lectures from two so far this year, 2 different COCOM engineers, UCOM and Southcom, and then we had several panels with subject matter experts on it. Last year at Virtual JETSI, which was the first ever virtual event like that, we were able to facilitate 2 different panels at that event, and then we've got 2 more actually in the pipeline for this year that'll be coming to everyone on, I believe it's the 18th and the 20th this week. So very excited about that. So that was above the waterline. Below the waterline, it wasn't exactly, if we use the analogy of a duck in water where it's nice and smooth on top, there was a little bit of pedaling down underneath the surface, but not too much. And hopefully that wasn't, nobody on the outside saw that. We did have a little bit of churn, and we also had some firsts. So we were able to get our first charter published in July. I am going to be talking a bit about some of the changes that will be coming to it this year. So I guess one of the nice things about having control over our own charters is we can adjust when needed. We really then began to focus efforts on fulfilling national headquarters performance measures. So our nationally aligned VP, national VP, Charlie Parham, and really both of the vice presidents, Charlie and Neil, right, were put together a performance assessment tracker, and we were able to run through that and show some definitive upward trends in a couple of different areas, really around the lines of succession planning and charter. That was one of the big ones at the front end. So that was one of the reasons we did that. So established a charter. We did get a succession plan a type of succession plan in place. Have some more work to do on that one, but at least we've got one now. And then spent a number of conversations, a number of different back and forth on refocusing how this particular COI delivers value to members. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the next one, which is we transitioned away from providing direct support to field chapters, or really serving as a virtual regional, kind of RVP or a virtual region. The function in the coming year is going to be really transferred back over to Europe and Pacific, or perhaps a CONUS-based entity. I think there's probably still some discussions around that. It really is going to be driven off of the demand signal from different locations where we potentially have society membership that wants to get a field chapter in place. The other thing is we also divested management of the grant program, and there can be probably some debate around whether that was a good thing or a bad thing. The fact is given the last year COVID, we did not have any takers on the grant program, and even in the year prior to that, we really didn't have any takers on it either. So, well, let me take that back. Very limited participation or use of the grant program in the 2019-2020 timeframe. So that obviously have divested now. That budget line that had been allocated will go back to national to be used. All right, so moving along here.
Hey, Chris.
Go ahead, Blair. Blair, did you have something?
Something in the system something keeps muting me. Hey, with Jill on the phone from National, I think it's worth talking about those two topics just briefly, in that we stopped doing them because we thought we were no longer a value added. And the grants in particular, nobody was asking for them. And then the field chapters, they're going to go back to the regional vice presidents. There is still gap there, Jill, that I think needs to be at least thought through, especially if folks come back and do want to do grants, or as field chapters start picking up again, because they do ebb and flow in non-Europe or really Pacific locations. So just want to make sure National is tracking that the international community of interest isn't doing that. The gap is still there, just not sure how big the gap really is and what needs to be done about it.
Yeah, Blair, that's a good note. And and Jill, maybe that's something that we bring up with Rob. I don't know if he's the right one that would look at that, or if that's maybe you from a membership standpoint.
Yeah, it's actually in my membership budget is where it falls. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. I still think there's probably going to be a gap. And I'm not sure what the plan is for the next ECW, because I know that's been talked about a little bit. So, there's that piece of it as well. That you guys have played a role in that in the past too, right?
We have, and so maybe that's a good point I hadn't even thought about, was we look at maybe that grant program which was being used to go out to OCONUS posts or OCONUS field chapters, with a very difficult to acknowledge return on investment. Maybe that shifts over to what the main goal and mission of the COI is going to be going forward, which is industry government engagement. And maybe we do look at that, because that engineering capabilities workshop, which is what you're referring to, was really an IGE event on steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're gonna be doing it again this fall. We're gonna be doing it. It'll be virtual. For SAME, it'll be virtual. But we've had some initial dialogue, at least with AFRICOM and UCOM, about a physical in-person 2022 event, and we're now starting to have some on the front end of wanting. So yeah, I guess wanting and hoping is maybe not the best strategy, but wanting to do a similar type of an engagement with the Indo-PACOM team. So So maybe that, maybe I'll take that as a note or a kind of an action item for us to maybe unpack a bit further and see if some of that can be, some of that grant money that was maybe allocated against the grant program, maybe we look at a more, some kind of a use of it that'll have a larger ROI. I don't know,
Yeah.
comments? Okay.
Yeah, I think the,
All right.
most of the things that we've gotten for that grant program, have been, either way late, like, the 2016 reimbursement that somebody wanted 2 years later, or, they've been requested for things that it's like, no, we're not going to cover that. Travel JDC crap like that. So I think we'll always be able to find some funds to cover things. And maybe it's not the full big budget that we've had, but I think definitely sort of thinking about maybe using that for some portion of ECW might make sense if we do that in 2022.
Okay. All right, I'll make a note on that so we can unpack that a bit further.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. No, thanks. Thanks, Blair, for bringing that up because we would have glossed over that one. Just make a note here. All right. And so the beauty of the fact that we'll be able to, I'll edit this recording later on, is I can edit all that dead space out. So that'll be nice. Okay, moving on. Oops, let's see here. Yep. Okay. All right. So going forward now into the 21-22 operating year, the charter, which we'll get, I'll sign sometime this week and then post up. Or Jill, it'll come over to you to eventually get put up on the International COI website. Is a simplified version, and we've simplified the mission, I guess, to start off with. There used to be an inform, coordinate, and collaborate. We're just going to be inform and collaborate. Essentially, looking to really focus our energies in facilitating high-value lectures and panels that support OCONUS government agencies and supporting industry with IGE events, as well as project and program delivery information and trainings. And we're going to do that really via 4 lines of effort. The lecture series, which I think in the past year we really started to hit on some topics that people want to hear about. More so than before, and that's even shown in the fact that all of us have been stuck in a virtual world for the last year. We continue to get very good numbers on the lectures we do run. Panel events here, but it's actually events. And then the other 2, strategic engagement, and I'll unpack that in a follow-on slide, and then a little bit more about industry government engagement, which is one of the primary areas that we're going to be working on. I'm also going to be looking to increase direct interface with both the Europe and the Pacific RVPs in the coming year. We really kind of re-energized that in this past year, and I want to continue to move that forward. One way of doing that is either myself or the what I'm going to call is kind of the lead vice chair. So the person that's going to be my successor. That one of the 2 of us will be dialing into each of the Europe or the Pacific RBP calls every month. So the Pacific one's going to be a bit painful. It pops up at 3 a.m. in the morning, my time. But I think the only way to be engaged in this stuff is to actually to be there. So we'll do that. And then strategic engagement, and again, more to follow on that here in just a moment. All right. So the first thing I want to look at is kind of share with all of you is the 21-22 operating year organizational structure. So again, we did change the structure. Last year, if you would have seen this, there would have been positions on there for field chapter, vice chair, a grant program coordinator. Both of those positions are gone. I'm looking to add in a Middle East stroke Africa region vice chair. So that will be an individual that would fit up against right in line with the Europe and the Indo-Pacific regions. And then we still have our government agency and NGO vice chair with no change on that. Still have a vacant comms and marketing officer. And we've got a new one here, and again, I'm going to talk a bit more about this in a couple of slides, but this is the SAVE International Coordinator, and this is not SAVE International, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's not an NGO. It's a professional organization that's focused on value engineering, so the value methodology. SAME did sign an MOU last month, and the International Community of Interest was named as the really kind of the owner of that relationship. So I'll talk a bit more about that in just a moment. But as mentioned, we'll be looking to hire a volunteer, as it were, into the SAVE International Coordinator slot. Still looking for someone that can help us out and share the load on comms and marketing, and then looking to hire someone into the Middle East Africa region vice chair. The Europe region vice chair will remain as Charisse Knotts. Charisse also is the individual who I'm nominating to be my backfill as the chair at JETC 22. And so she's, I'm not doing that behind her back. She's accepted that challenge. So looking forward to that. So we'll be doing a lot more left and right seat over the next year, so that she's ready to seamlessly step into that slot. Indo-Pacific region will remain with Brian Duffy. Brian is also dual-hatted as the Pacific RVP, so we've had some dialogue already around whether or not that will be workable in the coming year, and I'm expecting that we will be looking to see if we can try to add someone in, especially out in the Japan Far East area, perhaps to assist with that role. Middle East Africa region vice chair Blair Shantz and I've had conversations around this. That's a vacant slot, but he's going to see if we can try to get somebody lined up into it, and we may also be using the volunteer placement system that apparently National has got now set up to see if we can recruit somebody in as well. And Lori Rook has volunteered to remain on as the government agency NGO vice chair, so I appreciate having her in that role. She brings her experience and many years of doing this, so that'll be very helpful to have her remain on that. A bit further up, young member liaison will remain with Matt Scribner. I know Matt's not on this call, but he is still the young member, I need to change that. It's actually young professionals. So Matt will remain as a young professional liaison, and of course then we got our Europe and Pacific RVPs. I won't spend a lot of time going through this. This will be in the slide deck, but up on the screen now is the lecture series. We've gone ahead and just kind of laid out what they're going to look like as far as calendar dates going forward through April of next year. And we will be looking to issue a call for themes and topics to the COI membership next month, and I'll be working, Jill, that's probably the first you've heard of that, but I'll be working with you next month after we get JETC out of the way to get a call for themes and topics out to the COI membership for those that we don't have a legitimate lecture already lined up for. But we do have, as of the date of the 17th of May, we do have a number of good sessions lined up through the rest of the remainder of the calendar year, a couple slots, but some good content yet to come this year. Into panel sessions, which is one of our second line of effort. Of course, this week being virtual JETC, we've got two great panel sessions that are lined up, ready to go, and looking forward to hearing both of those and participating in them. Those should be great sessions. We are going to look to run a panel session in September, which is going to be on making overseas government infrastructure net or near zero. We've got OBO has already committed to being on the panel. We will be working to get someone from OSD at the policy level, and then looking for two appropriate industry subject matter experts to be on that panel. I am looking towards Small Business Conference in November, God willing. Inshallah, it'll be in person this year. But even if it's not, even if it's virtual, we will put, I'm putting a marker down now that we will look to deliver two panel sessions at SBC 21 So more to follow on that. And you can see the topics: OCONUS, U.S. business operations, and small business leaders panel. So for overseas lessons learned, more to come on that. And then in JETSI 22, we will look to line up to have, again, 2 panel sessions there, one on a project delivery theme and another on an IGE theme. So if you want to participate in any of these, feel free to please reach out to one of the COI members, direct message me on LinkedIn, whichever route gets you to us the quickest. All right, this is new for the COI. This is our strategic engagements. So as I mentioned, SAME National signed an MOU last month with SAVE International, and that MOU really kind of lays out for the membership of both organizations an opportunity for learning more about those organizations, participating in their trainings, participating in their conferences, etc. It's really early days on this relationship. As of the date of recording this, the 17th of May. We just had an initial kickoff call with them about a week and a half ago, so early May of 21. I'm still trying to get my arms wrapped around how we can integrate them into not just the international COI, but across the rest of the appropriate communities of interest. So architectural, facility asset management, perhaps others. So there's still more work to be done on this. It's going to be a little bit of a slow roll to the start because SAVE International will be having a president swap over in early July. So we've got a placeholder out in July of this year now for our next coordination call. But nonetheless, we'll be looking to get a coordinator lined up on the COI now to be a direct liaison. And I have had discussions with Rob Biederman, who's the new national COI coordinator and IGE coordinator, on whether the international COI is actually the correct place for managing this relationship. So more to come on all that, but until otherwise directed, we'll be marching out and moving out and trying to get this relationship lined up for membership on both sides. A couple other organizations that we're going to look at trying to get some strategic engagement going with. And again, I'll say, in truth in advertising, mainly because of the fact of relationships that I've got with individuals at these entities, and because they're here in Europe where I am. But of course, we could always look to add additional ones if it seemed to be a good fit. But those are the ones that we're going to be looking at in the next year of actually trying to get something moving with is the Military Engineering Center of Excellence. For those that really probably on the Army side that have done time in Europe will have known it as the old NTEC, became the MilEng COE probably, now about a decade ago, a little over a decade ago. But opportunity there for getting some interface and trainings with the MilEng COE and see where that goes. The NATO Energy Security Center of Excellence, which is up in Vilnius, Lithuania. We've tried last year and then we ran into COVID and it kind of died really quickly. So we're going to see if we can try to get that started up again. And then something a little bit closer to my flagpole is the Institution of Royal Engineers. I'm actually now a member of that entity, and we've had some early days conversations with them over the last few months. But again, COVID is kind of slowing that process down. So I think there's going to be some face-to-face that needs to happen with them before that can go anywhere further. So more to follow on all of these. Very excited about the SAVE International. I think value engineering, value methodology plays directly in. In fact, we had a presentation for those that are watching this and are interested. August of last year, we had a great presentation on the value methodology from Steve Kirk. So you can go back into the archives and look at that if you want to learn more about value engineering and value methodology and what SAVE is. So not unknown to us, but a new relationship nonetheless.
Hey Chris, just got a text from Lori actually, who just had what I think could be a really good idea. What about getting some of our host nation engineer organizations to give a presentation? Perhaps DIA, perhaps the Qatari Emir Corps of Engineers. even GDMW in Saudi. But there's a bunch of them that I think where there's a lot of work going on might be an interesting topic and presentation.
I think that would be exceptional. And I'm making a note here right now because I think you're absolutely spot on. We've had NSPA, NATO Supply and Procurement Agency come on before, but I think that would take us to a new level if we're able to get Qatari Emiri Engineer Corps, maybe CMW from the Emirates, KSA. I've got a good relationship here in the UK with DIO, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to get DIO onto that as well. So, yeah, let me take a note on that, and we can begin to unpack that via email, and then maybe on the next executive committee, see if we can try to get some of these lined up.
Now here's one that's way out there, and I don't think the Small Business Conference would be the right time, but JETC next year, you have to pick the right players, but what about a panel session with some different foreign nationals on it?
That could be very interesting. if we can get the right ones who are willing to pay their way.
Well, as I start thinking through the global AOR, I'll bet Korea would do it. Euro would love to come and do something like that, and they'd pay their way. Qatar would pay their way. So there's two right there. Perhaps two more somewhere else. Maybe it is DIO, and then maybe it's somewhere around the Pacific Rim a little further. Could be pretty interesting.
Okay.
Because I know even Australia has a very interesting construct in how they maintain their organizations. And I know Indo-PACOM has been talking to them quite often because of a project down there in Darwin. So even they could be opening the key. Time zone challenges, yes, but at least it's a thought.
Yeah, no, I like it. That would be actually pretty awesome. So I've got a note here. So let's begin to unpack that and start making some initial contact. I think DIO will be an easy one because that should be a really easy one to get lined up pretty quickly. And then I think between the two of you with QECE might not, maybe that's the next one, but I'll leave that to you both, and then we can have some discussions around how we get some of these other ones lined up. I think it's a great idea. Awesome. All right. Which is a great segue into a little bit of a discussion here on the last line of effort, which is on our on the industry government engagement piece of the business. So many may not know, but we've already started planning on this for providing virtual lectures and panels on some topics and themes that will be identified by AFRICOM and UCOM for their engineers conference that's going to take place at Kleikasern in Wiesbaden, Germany, the week of 1 November 21. So we've gone down what will eventually become essentially become a hybrid type of an event. So the SAME participation will be virtual. Likely that the AFRICOM UCOM piece will be physical, so they'll have an actual presence at Kleikasern. But we're taking the risk adverse route of providing SAME support to them from in a virtual realm because quite frankly at this point it's still too early to tell what the restrictions are going to be for travel and movement and gatherings and et cetera, et cetera. So we're gonna play it easy and run down this route of doing facilitated virtual lectures and panels. It'll be hosted for SAME by the International Community of Interest, and we've already got some work underway with AFRICOM and UCOM to get a call for presentations issued out to all of SAME, so not just the ICOI, but the entire society to draw on the expertise from across the organization. So that's in play, and in fact, I've got the next planning call with AFRICOM, UCOM's action officers on Thursday this week. So we'll continue to move that one along. That then is something that we're going to be looking at. How do we collaborate with through the Pacific RVP and with Indo-PACOM and the service components out on the Pacific side of the world to do something similar for them, where we're in this kind of a hybrid event. I think with all of us now a little more savvy on virtual meetings, virtual webinars, et cetera, it's a great way for us to be able to leverage society expertise without having to necessarily maybe spend thousands of dollars in a week to travel someplace. We are going to continue to collaborate with the Europe RVP and AFRICOM UCOM going into calendar year 22 for an in-person event. So excited about that. We'll see how that unpacks. And then we'll be looking, had some early discussions. I think, Blair, you might get a smile, well, Lori, both smile on your face about this. But some early day discussions now about resurrecting the International Business Opportunities webinars starting in calendar year 22. So more to come on that. We'll get a I don't know if we're going to do a questionnaire or something else to try to get some feedback if this is something there's an appetite out there for it. But that may play in directly with the previous suggestion about trying to get some of the international design construction agents online. Maybe we somehow get them packaged into this International Business Opportunities webinar series. So before I jump into the next slide, any comments or thoughts on this one?
Chris, I'm sorry that I'm late. I had another call run long, but I think doing a survey would be a great idea on the IBOW.
Okay, nope, that's good. That's running through my mind. In fact, I think we talked about that last year. We just never did it. So I've got some text on it. I just need to act on it.
Hey, Chris, the real challenge with the IBO, to be honest, is that everybody loves the idea, especially in the business sector, but the reality is that the government side doesn't step up and do it. So it always briefs real well, but it never delivers. So I'm not sure how we overcome that.
Well, then another thing we could look at is instead of having it yearly, maybe have it as a biannually event. So every other year, because it does take a lot of time and effort, and therefore it might be kind of as every 2-year thing, something to look forward to as opposed to every year. Just food for thought.
It's not a bad idea either. Well, so it doesn't take too much effort to get the questionnaire out. What I'll do is I'll pull out the one that I had previously, clean it up a little bit, and then I'll run it past everybody, get your feedback on it, and then we'll look at getting the thing pushed up there live, maybe in June, so we can try to get some initial feedback on whether or not whether or not the juice will be worth the squeeze.
Hey, Chris, I'll go back to, we can do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I can predict already. I'll be a soothsayer for this. The private sector is going to say, absolutely, we want to do it. This will be great. But again, if the COCOMs and the services don't step up and actually put real meat out there, all the businesses are going to show up and go, well, that was a waste of time and money. That's what was starting to happen toward the end. There just was nothing there that they were really putting out, that they were so shy about putting out any information that it really wasn't an effective event for the private sector.
Yep, copy that, and I suspect that's exactly how this will go out. So I think we can do this with industry, and maybe it's some one-on-one interface with on the government side to see if they got the appetite to make it happen. So good point. Good point. All right, some parting shots on what those that are going to be viewing this can do to help. So again, volunteers, right? So all of us that are involved with the COI, with the exception of Jill, are volunteers. So we do this out of our desire to serve and desire to deliver timely and useful information to our colleagues, both in government and industry, on what's going on outside the continental United States. So are going to be looking for volunteers to fill the roles, as I've already mentioned, in the Middle East, Africa Vice Chair, the SAVE International Coordinator and our Communications Coordinator in the coming year. So obviously we'll be trying to press that to get more people involved.
Hey,
and also,
Chris,
we're
do
gonna be
we
looking
have
to try to
any,
get-
sorry, but do we have any information on those 3 roles? For example, what is expected of each of those from a communications coordinator? What is actually expected? So do we have any kind of position description so somebody could know what they are signing up for?
I'm fairly certain I do for the Middle East Africa Vice Chair and the Comms Coordinator. So I think the short answer is yes.
Cool.
And we'll be, yeah. And so, of course, we can email those out, or what'll likely end up happening is that I understand that National now has the elected directors. One of them has put together a volunteer jobs board. So I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but I think we may be pushing it out that way. But I will, if you've got somebody specifically in mind or whatever, I can push those PDs over to you. Okay. Let's see. The last one on here is topics and themes. I think part of that questionnaire that we send out to everyone will be to we'll be asking them for topics or specific themes they'd like to see hit in the coming year. Again, I think we've been successful in the past year on the topics we've hit, but I think that was born more out of good luck than it was out of having direct input from the wider society. So we from a volunteer level, we'll call it micro volunteering. If you can at least give us some feedback on what you want to hear about, that makes our jobs a heck of a lot easier as we go out trying to canvass subject matter experts, whether they are society members or outside, whether they're industry or government, academia, wherever they may be. A lot easier for us to make sure that we can pull the right people in. So more to follow on that. All right. So always interested in additional feedback. My contact details are on here. International COI website is down at the bottom of the screen. And with that, for the small group we've got on here, let's go open mic night here and see what kind of input and additional questions we've got.
Hey, Chris, this is Lori. I'm looking back over some of the conversations that we've had with people, and we talk about project management and all this kind of stuff. Is there anything out there that talks about preventative maintenance as opposed to fixing it when it breaks? Because I know because of a lot of SRM budgets have been really, really reduced, most people don't do any preventative maintenance. They just fix it when it breaks, right? And they limp along otherwise. Has there been any industry studies or industry best practices that shows that perhaps there's a better way of doing that maybe preventative maintenance is the way to go because it prevents those big things from happening? I mean, is there anything out there globally like that at all?
I personally don't know that. My guess is that somebody's probably looked at that. And the first thing that comes to my mind, if I'm doing word association on it, would be the facility asset management COI. So that could be something where we can reach out to that COI and see if they've got anything that gets towards answering that question. And if we think that we want to bring a lecture over into our COI on it, we can maybe almost pump that one over to them to see if we can get them to work it and deliver it for us. So
I don't know if it cost is different from a CONUS installation to an OCONUS installation. Are there different methodologies they provide to that, or those are the kinds of things? So just from a facility management perspective overseas, I mean, how do they do it, and maybe even who does it better? Does the Air Force do it better? Does the Army do it better? Or does the Navy do it better? And maybe just comparing the nuances of how each installation does that may be of value. Not sure, but just a food for thought.
Okay.
Hey, Chris, I put a little different slant on it from the the FM folks, the community of interest, look at it, because overseas you have that the rotational mentality, which I think does change how you approach things, and probably not correctly. So it could be something worth looking into.
Yeah, no, it could be. Well, and I, again, to make it even more complex, for instance, here in the UK, that the vast majority of the facility maintenance is done by the host nation through under a contract that they hold. So so that becomes even more complex. So I'll put a marker here in my notes to kind of chase up on this. I'll include you all on the email on that when I send it over to the facility asset management COI chair, just to get the dialogue moving, and we can see where we can go with that one. So yeah, good input, Lori. Let's see. Let's just run around I'll run around the virtual table here and just call on everybody individually, and then we'll close this down. So I'm just not going to do this in alphabetical order. I'm just going to start at the top of my list here and then run down. So Sharice, you're at the top of the list. So any additional thoughts, saved rounds, inputs?
Well, and I also have the same initials as you, so that probably does that. No, again, I'm sorry I'm late. So what just fill me in on what I missed on the first few slides, but I don't have any additional comments or save rounds. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Sharice. Jill, anything else you want to share with the group, or questions, complaints?
No, I can't complain about you guys ever. You're like the easy COI for me. You know, you guys do your thing, and I just try to make sure I get it out and online.